Do not donate any money to countries being invaded by foreign nations. Do not donate any money to protect civil rights of individuals. No, 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 no. Donate money to crypto research. This kind of culture, this techie dude bro culture, this is not healthy. Alrighty, everybody. I have made no bones about how I feel about cryptocurrency, blockchain tech, specifically NFTs. Generally speaking, I'm of the opinion that it's, for the most part, it's gambling on something that has no real value. Elon Musk can go on Twitter and say something disparaging about a particular coin, and then magically that coin's value will drop a fuck ton overnight merely because of the words of a single person. They're not safe investments. Now, this is ignoring the fact that there are some people who have gotten a lot of money from investing in crypto, but that's the thing. Crypto, unlike stocks, isn't exactly predictable. The crypto crash has been a thing to witness lately. Video cards have become much more affordable as a result of that. But before we get into that, let's go ahead and talk about the fan art section, and then we will move forward. So, this one is from Robotic Kitty. They said, I finished, but I know the lighting is wrong. Sorry, I don't see how the lighting is wrong. It just looks like the lighting is appearing from below. Everything looks fine, honestly. The actual image itself looks really good, and this is, I like the aura for this particular bit. I really do. Thank you very much, Robotic Kitty. The next one we have here is from Zoo Potato. It is an update on a previous work in progress. So they finished the Slime Girl drawing. Hope you guys like it. And honestly, yes. Slime Girl art is always amazing. The last one we have is from Jet. They said, here are some Ranma and Slime Rancher inspired Surises. The Slime Rancher ones will appear later, but this is the Ranma 1/2 inspired male and female Surises. So I guess now we'll just have the splash water and suddenly gender changes. We'll just do that. It'll work. Well, splash water and sex changes. The actual, from what I understand, Ranma never actually changed his gender, just his sex whenever the slash happened. I need to go through and rewatch Ranma 1/2. As always, everybody, thank you all for your fan art submissions. If you want your fan art to be shown in a future video, the best way to do so is to drop it into the fan art section. With that said, let's go ahead and get right into the topic at hand here. So, there's a crypto exchange called Kraken. Now, most of this information comes from a user named Molly White, but Kraken is a United States-based crypto exchange. They've announced that they will be continuing to hire and have announced an overhaul to their business's actual culture. They're going to be promoting something called diversity of thought over stereotypical team diversity measurements. So typically, we're talking about like affirmative action stuff. Usually this means that you go, hey, our team is comprised of mostly like white guys, so we're going to go ahead and hire a couple of girls. We're going to go ahead and hire a couple of people of color. We're going to go ahead and get some different perspectives in here besides just that. Usually that's what you do. Usually that's how you go about diversifying, but instead they're going to be doing what's called diversity of thought. Now, what does this mean for their company? I find it very, very interesting because what they're going to do is prohibit describing a person's words as racist or phobic in any way, shape, or form. The announcement can be found over on their website, where they go into every bit of it. You can find it over here. Kraken Culture Explained. If culture is the way of life of a group of people, then company culture is a way of work for a group of people. If it is a company's shared set of traditions, values, goals, attitudes, whether written or unwritten. Let's go ahead and look at their list real quick so that you can know. Their basic principles. We mostly communicate in English, sometimes unsuccessfully due to language barriers and varying levels of proficiency. Krakenites are welcome to request and deny personal language and communication preferences of each other, but there is no right, wrong, or formal rule that would impose an obligation to make one preference subservient to another. So if you do not speak English, they have no policy for making sure a translator is available for you. Text-based communication is suboptimal in many ways. We don't benefit from tone of voice, facial expressions, mannerisms, and other context indicators. This also seems to be a way to make sure that people don't record conversations as easily. We give each other the benefit of the doubt. Well, that would sound okay, but everybody is responsible for their own feelings. Well, hold on. So nobody's responsible when they say something that directly affects my feelings. Nobody has any responsibility for that at all? Okay. That doesn't sound right. That sounds like it literally ignores how human communication works. Human communication is a two-way street. Offense may be taken, but it is also delivered. Being offended doesn't necessarily make you right. See, this one is true. Being offended doesn't make you right. Being offended doesn't make you harmed. But now you see how far they go when they say, words nor silence are ever violence. Words are never violence. So if I were to say, let's see here. If I were to have the words, we should kill the, and I'm not going to go much further than that, that's not a form of violence? That actionable statement is not violence? Violence is not just taking the bat and hitting somebody in the head with it. It is also the thing that motivates the swinging of the bat. To argue that words can never be violent is to argue that Adolf Hitler never did anything violent. You don't have to be the one with the gun pulling the execution to be the one that ordered the execution. Without the order, nothing happened. Literally, words can be their own form of violence. It depends on what they incite. We say why we disagree and calmly challenge ideas with logic, reason, and better ideas. See, I want to agree with this. I want to agree with that because I agree with the idea that bad ideas can be beaten by good ideas. But here's the problem. Who gets to determine what a good idea is and a bad idea? Who gets to do that? The problem with this line of reasoning in general is that it assumes that all people have the ability to differentiate between a good idea and a bad idea. But if I come here and start talking about all the benefits of eugenics, it takes a certain level of expertise to explain why that is a bad idea, and then it takes a certain level of understanding from the audience to be able to ascertain which of the two is a better idea. This idea that all ideas exist in a vacuum, only to have the good picked away from the chaff, only really works if you're willing to agree with, one, the argumentum ad populum fallacy, and two, that all people are always rational actors at all times. Then say, we do not call someone's words toxic, hateful, racist, phobic, or unhelpful. So if somebody says, you're not doing enough work, but your kind never does enough work. Your kind always makes my people pull your weight all the time. That's not a toxic statement. That's not somehow a hateful statement. That's not somehow racist. That's not, by its very nature, an unhelpful statement. I can't argue that that's what those things are. Really? We assume ignorance before we assume malice. This is one I can agree with, sure. We do not demand respect, but we encourage offering it. No, while respect should be earned, respect should also be the default for most people. At the very least, a calm neutrality. We always work to de-escalate a discussion that becomes emotional. On some levels, I agree with this, but effective communication is to understand that not everybody communicates best in type 2 scenarios. Type 2 being logic, type 1 being emotional. Type 1 is your gut reaction. Type 1 is your prejudices. Type 1 is your fight or flight. Type 2 is the explanation as to why when we're talking about different modes of thinking. Not everybody can engage in type 2 conversations very easily. And those emotions are still valid and need to be heard when it comes to people. So we try to resolve personal disputes one-on-one, ideally over a video call versus chat. So if we have one person who's incredibly racist and one person who is the race they hate, try to resolve that one-on-one instead of bringing in a manager. Sure, why not? Sure, that'll definitely work out very well for you. Except I don't think it really will. I don't think that's actually very helpful. But okay. They believe markets are fantastic at weeding out the applicants chasing hype from true believers in their mission. Those are the words they use. True believers. I don't think that most legitimate business organizations need to call their employees true believers. Typically, if you use loaded language like that, I'm going to assume we're looking at a cult. I'm going to assume we're looking at a cult, not somebody who actually legitimately is holding a business with any actual value. You should be able to demonstrate that value, not require people to be true believers. The announcement includes headings like more pirate than professional and differences of opinion. They write that nobody's ever offended. We either don't have enough diversity of thought or we don't have enough transparency in communication. Nobody is ever offended? Nobody takes offense to things. They just need more diversity of thought. So I need more diversity of thought to put myself in the shoes of the person who is saying that all black people deserve to die, as an example. I just need more diversity of thought because I can't call that racist, despite it being that. I can't call it xenophobic, despite it being that. I can't call it toxic, despite it being that. I can't call it hateful, despite it being that. I can't call it unhelpful, despite it being that. No. We have to be so free speech that there are words we expressly can't use. They've also said that any current employees who disagree with the culture can leave. In commitment to those values, they expand their permanent benefits program to make moving on a bit easier for anyone who feels it's time for the next chapter in their career. While I understand the sentiment is great, this is literally just top-down communication. As opposed to hearing employees' words, their thoughts and feelings about how these types of things affect them in a work environment, it's, hey, if you don't like it, leave. As opposed to legitimately having the introspection to understand that maybe there are reasons why people don't like the things that your company has set up. From my perspective, this is the type of stuff that creates a toxic and hostile work environment. Oh, but I can't use those words. Those are outside of my ability. I can't. Because to use those words is to break their company policy. That you're pretty sure that a company would get in a lot of trouble here in California. So the chief executive of Kraken is a man named Jesse Powell. Kraken is one of the largest cryptocurrency exchanges. He recently asked his employees, if you can identify as a sex, can you identify as a race or ethnicity? That's that's the CEO. We'll go into the CEO here in a bit, but let's continue. The culture stuff. A lot of their company culture relies on the idea of dedication to the mission. The mission is to accelerate worldwide adoption of cryptocurrency. In this document, they say constantly belief in the mission is a must. So, for me, what this says to me, how this reads to me, personally, if belief is so paramount, but demonstration is not, and you need everybody to accept this special thing, you desperately need that, this sounds like multi-level marketing. Now, I know that that's not what exactly is going on, but the fact that cryptocurrency relies so much on random people believing in it, they just have to believe. They just have to believe, and then it will be good for everyone. Despite how volatile the market is and how toxic the workplace environment is. They say, does every Krakenite need to believe in the mission? They believe so. They're fighting an extremely difficult, protracted battle, facing tremendous uncertainty and peril. For the true believers, the prize makes the pain worthwhile. Does that sound like language that a regular company? Does that sound like a normal company? Because that, to me, again, it sounds like cult indoctrination. It sounds like a persecution complex. It sounds like what happens when fundamentalist Christian cultists say that them being persecuted is evidence that they're correct. Yeah, the pain. Those are the words. Then goes on to say that for those with less conviction, the journey might be too much. Kraken writes about their belief in rights including free speech and free markets, liberty, self-defense, and limited government. They quote to say this should be no surprise to Americans, as these rights can all be derived from the Constitution. They then say, here's an interesting part of the document. I'll read this one to you directly from the document itself. We will engage in lobbying as a single-issue donor, supporting controversial politicians and legislation that furthers the mission. The mission being the adoption of cryptocurrency. Possibly to the detriment of other civil rights causes. Let me scroll up to where I have that highlighted. They will engage in lobbying as a single-issue donor, supporting controversial politicians to the detriment of other civil rights causes. That's called going full mask off. When you actually have that information right there, your employees need to be looking at that and going, hey, this is a red flag. I think we're the baddies. I think we're the baddies. They say that they'll incorporate firearm and self-defense training into corporate retreats. They then say that someone must be offended some of the time. If nobody is ever offended, then we either don't have enough diversity of thought or we don't have enough transparency in communication. Diversity cannot exist if there is one, no diversity of thought, and two, tolerance of diverse thoughts. So if you think that black people need to be wiped off the planet or the Jews are controlling the government, I should just tolerate that. I need more love and tolerance. No. We need to talk about the paradox of tolerance. If you tolerate intolerance, you're just engaging in intolerance. You're enabling intolerance. That's how that works. They have another part in this document that I find kind of unsettling. So remember how they said that everything goes to specifically the mission, crypto. Should we aim to be exemplary in terms of stereotypical team diversity measurements? No. Should we aim to be exemplary in terms of execution, product, and service quality? Yes. Should we donate money to the current thing? Question. Who here knows about the current thing meme? I would hope pretty much all of you do. The current thing meme is a pretty substantial thing on Twitter, but it's the idea that whether it's BLM or the fight in Ukraine or the fight for individual bodily autonomy in the United States right now, regardless of what it is, they just label all of that as the thing. It's all the thing, the current thing. Do not donate any money to countries being invaded by foreign nations. Do not donate any money to protect civil rights of individuals. No. Donate money to crypto research. All crypto research. What kind of a trash-ass company do you have to be for this to be how you operate? Should we mandate the seasonal flu vaccine? No. Should we mandate good individual OPSEC? Yes. So making it to where you have a safe and healthy environment for your employees, not important. Not important whatsoever. But instead, mandating better operations security, that's way more important. Now, operations security is important for cryptocurrency because of the amount of times that projects just get their rugs pulled out from them. It's not a safe environment for any type of investment. But we're not done. We also need to read about the CEO. After all, they're an important part of this conversation as well. So let's talk about Jesse Powell. Let's talk about stereotypical white guy problems for a minute. I, as a stereotypical white guy, would like to talk about them. Jesse Powell, founder and chief executive of Kraken, one of the world's largest cryptocurrency exchanges, asked his employees, if you can identify as a sex, can you identify as a race or an ethnicity? A ludicrously stupid question if you actually understand anything about how social construction of race and social construction of gender work. You can't identify as a sex, but you can identify as a gender. Gender is a social construct. These are things that we can actually fluidly move between. Sex is something we have some measure of control over now because we have access to hormone therapies and surgeries, but all things considered, this question is a category error. Race, as a socially constructed thing, is descriptive. It is descriptive of a variety of things that are immutable. It's descriptive sometimes of culture. It is descriptive sometimes of biological factors, but largely the way in which we construct it is different. We construct gender not just based on phenotypical expression, but also by different actionable things, not just culture. Race itself is not something where you can actually change your identity around. I mean, you can say you identify as one race or another, but really a question like this almost always boils down to, can I, a white guy, identify as black? And the answer to that is, you're stupid. But yes, at one point we used to consider, say, Irish people not white. They could identify as white, but society wouldn't treat them that way. I can do this, I can do this, you could do this. But the straight white guy, truly the most picked on demographic. Truly the most picked on demographic. The social construction of race, generally speaking, is about power. It's about people in positions of political or socioeconomic power or social authority that get to decide the lines by which people are divided. Gender is a little bit different. Gender is largely performative. Gender can be more towards the individual. It doesn't have to be as assigned as race. To argue that one and the other are identical, outside of the ways in which we operate within our prejudices, is to engage in not a category error anymore, but a scope error. But he then went on to say, he questioned use of preferred pronouns and led the discussion with who can refer to another person as the N-word. Who can refer to another person as the N-word? Well, given that the N-word is largely used as a method to disparage people of a certain race, you can see where he's going with this. He wants people to be able to identify as a particular race because it gives them a fucking N-word pass. He told workers that questions about women's intelligence and risk appetite compared to men's were not as settled as people might have initially thought. In the process, Mr. Powell, a 41-year-old Bitcoin pioneer, ignited a culture war among his more than 3,000 workers, according to interviews with 5 Kraken employees, as well as internal documents, videos, and chat logs reviewed by the New York Times. Some workers have openly challenged the chief executive for what they see as his hurtful comments. Others have accused him of fostering a hateful workplace that damages their mental health. Dozens are considering quitting, said the employees who did not want to speak publicly for fear of retaliation. Corporate culture wars have abounded during the coronavirus pandemic as remote work, inequity, and diversity have become central issues at workplaces. At Meta, which owns Facebook, resistive employees have agitated over racial justice. At Netflix, employees protested the company's support for comedian Dave Chappelle after he aired a special that was criticized as transphobic. But rarely has such angst been actively stoked by the top boss. And even in the male-dominated cryptocurrency industry, which is known for a libertarian philosophy that promotes freewheeling speech, Mr. Powell has taken that ethos to the extreme. His boundary pushing comes amid a deepening crypto downturn. On Tuesday, Coinbase, one of Kraken's main competitors, said it was laying off 18% of its employees following job cuts at Gemini and Crypto.com, 2 other crypto exchanges. Kraken, which is valued at 11 billion according to PitchBook, is also grappling with the turbulence in the crypto market, as the price of Bitcoin has plunged to its lowest point since 2020. Mr. Powell's culture crusade, which has largely played out on Kraken's Slack channels, may be part of a wider effort to push out workers who don't believe in the same values as the crypto industry. Remember, true believers are far more important than anything else. This month, Mr. Powell unveiled a 35-page culture document outlining Kraken's libertarian philosophical values, a culture document that we've already looked at a little bit. Those who disagreed could quit. Powell said they could opt out of the program that would provide 4 months of pay if they affirmed that they would never work at Kraken again. That's so, on the one hand, 4 months of pay, that's actually a pretty good severance, right? That's an okay severance compared to the no severance that most places have right now. But if it's literally you'll never work at Kraken again if you give this is a way to shut people up. This is a way for people that you do not like to leave your company, and instead of challenging yourself with their thoughts and opinions, you'd rather them leave. When you are such a free speech warrior that other people's speech needs to be bought off for you, that tells you the type of person that Jesse Powell is. On Monday, Christina Yee, a Kraken executive, gave those on the fence a nudge, writing in a Slack post that the CEO, company, and culture are not going to change in any meaningful ways. If someone strongly dislikes or hates working here, or thinks those here are hateful or have poor character, work somewhere that doesn't disgust you. This is the kind of language that you get from a child. Just leave me if I'm so gross. No, I'm asking you to change your toxic behavior. You can do that. You're an adult. You have the ability to. It's a company filled with adults. They should all have that ability. After the Times contacted Kraken about its internal conversations, the company publicly posted an edited version of its culture document on Tuesday. In a statement, Alex Rapoport said that Kraken does not tolerate inappropriate discussions. She added that as the company more than doubled its workforce in recent years, we felt the time was right to reinforce our mission and values. Mr. Powell and Ms. Yee did not respond for requests to comment. Jesse Powell says he's entertained debate for a bit because he's open-minded. He can be convinced. That's why he tells his employees to leave if they think differently than him. Teams should have input into policies. The problem is, I'm way more studied on the policy topics. People get triggered by everything and can't conform to basic rules of honest debate. Back to dictatorship. He literally just says, functionally, I'm open to talking with you, but I'm better than you and smarter than you, therefore you're wrong. This is a dictatorship now. I'm just smarter than you. This is a dictatorship. Where do you go from there? They have an ideological purity test, a test of whether or not you're the kind of aligned with a vision of Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies. This kind of culture, this fucking techie dude bro culture, this is not healthy. Said, and this is said libertarians were never really interested in being libertarian anyway, and this is evidence. Well, yeah, libertarian philosophy isn't as laissez-faire as people think. It ends up being laissez-faire, but if I'm your boss, you have to do everything I say, period. You have to do everything I say, or fuck you. But with that said, I throw the conversation back to all of you. My position on this is fairly obvious. It should be fairly clear. This is a load of horse shit. As a CEO of a company, to just go, nope, full dictatorship, fuck all of you, I'm smarter than all of you, it doesn't help anyone. Like, at all. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. If you want to support me and my channel, instead of Crypto Dude Brewery, then maybe consider hitting the like button, subscribing, heading over to Patreon. That'd be cool. Past all that, as always, everybody, insert end of video tagline here.